Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, wherever you are right now. Welcome to this edition of the Management OS Show, brought to you by CEO Mastermind.ai. Today, I'm joined by a friend of mine, Giuseppe Grammatico. He's a franchise consultant, an investor. He's got an incredible journey to share, the wins, the pitfalls along the way. And he's also the founder of the Franchise Guide. And he's helped hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs and corporate folks sort of escape, the corporate burnout and really guide people in finding the right thing for them as it relates to finding their time and freedom that they're looking for. And again, there are a lot of things that he does for free. Actually, he gets compensated in a different way. We'll talk about that, but he's an incredible resource. You're going to want to listen to this. If you've ever thought about owning your own business and running something, Giuseppe is your guy. He has incredible experience in both finance and operations. And because of his corporate, experience and transition, he's really empowered to talk about this journey. At the end of the day, his mission is honestly really simple: to help people design a life where the business serves them and not the other way around. We all know that too many people basically buy themselves they leave one prison to go to the next, and they don't know, oh, what did I do wrong over here? And I think that's the piece that Giuseppe can help us with. So we'll explore how to find the right franchise, what your values, the mindset, the pitfalls that people make, the system, the whole nine yards. So I won't say too much more. Welcome, Giuseppe. Thank you. And thank you for your time and coming on to our show.
I appreciate it, David. I'm really looking forward to it. I appreciate that really nice intro of yours, and looking to help where we can and spread as much knowledge and share as much as possible.
Yeah, so let's kind of talk about the crossroads, that, when you and I talked a little while back, we talked about people sort of come to you, it's like, hey, I've been in corporate and all of a sudden they want to do something different, or they get laid off and now's my moment. And so what is like, the thought that you see when people say, look, I'm done being an employee, I want to own my own something. Like what do you see there, and what are the experiences that people are coming to you with?
Yeah, so whenever someone comes to us and they want to engage and start looking at franchises, I'll ask them why and why now. These are typically corporate executives. They've either been laid off, as you mentioned, maybe they anticipate being laid off, or just want a change. They're just not happy with their environment. Even individuals coming out of the military, looking at that career transition as to what's next. And I'll ask, well, hey, have you ever owned the business? Most cases they haven't. And I'll just say, what's the appeal to you? What are you trying to create with this vehicle, right? There's so many different vehicles. There's jobs, there's businesses and franchises and real estate and so many other things. So we kind of talk about the reason they're doing it, their motivation, their why, and then discussing, what a franchise truly is. There's a lot of myths and misconceptions. It's not a set it and forget it passive type of investment. It's you're actively running and managing this business, this franchise. We call it a business on training wheels. So we dive deeper. It's kind of setting the expectation, what a franchise is. Why do you want to do it? And that's the first stage before even diving into any brands. And then talk about, what that looks like, who is a good fit for a franchisee. And these are people that follow systems well, that have some money to invest with a reasonable time frame, in that they're looking at brands that have availability now. You're not going to say let's research now and wait 2 years to purchase. What is that time frame? So we really get clear on what they're looking for, the setting the expectations, and then what a franchise can create via the famous terms time freedom and financial freedom that we talk about all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, and you kind of hit an important nuance there, because it's this whole concept of set it and forget it. And I'm going to get the numbers. They may not be exactly right, but they're directional. So we know that most traditional businesses fail at an 80 to 90% plus rate. And generally speaking, franchise systems, good ones anyhow, will succeed at an 80 to 90% rate. Now, there are some good franchisors and bad franchisors out there. There's no question about it. But the key thing is when someone buying a franchise, you're buying a system, and if
Right.
it's a good franchisor, but to your point, you can't just, let's say you want to buy a Subway. You can't just buy one, never show up and expect it to just, rain money. It doesn't really work that way.
Correct.
You still kind of got to work the system. Yes, there's this larger machine at hand, but now you're dealing with the local retail. You're dealing with now your community. How do you hire? All those sorts of things. It's not, I think it's an important piece to hit because sometimes people have this perception, oh, someone owns a franchise, they must be rich, right?
Yeah.
That you're making hands over fist, owning a Subway or owning well, I think Dairy Queen, my first job making $3 an hour back in the 90s. But I don't know if they're franchise or corporate, but they think that the owner is rich, and that's, I think, far from the truth. You can do financially well with multiples, but it's sort of, I guess it kind of gets into my next question about, you talk about, life design before franchise selection, right? And so
Right.
how do we go about doing that? And what are some of the expectations that people can have as they go through this journey to kind of figure out, okay, now what?
Yeah, it's really step one, there's a franchise, could that be a potential fit? Step two is reverse engineering the process to figure out what this ideal business looks like. You can't just buy any franchise, right? The franchise has to be awarded to you, so you can make that final decision. Each franchise will have kind of a franchise avatar, who they feel is a good fit specifically for that brand. So when we reverse engineer this, we're looking at, okay, what are you bringing to the table? So we look at things such as a transferable skill set. What is that? Sales, networking, management, leadership roles. Those are all transferable skills. The franchisor doesn't really, or they're not really looking for experience in the industry of roofing. They can easily teach you that. They're looking for people that can execute a franchise, the system, right? Follow the system, and do the things that, for example, the networking at the Chamber of Commerce events, the hiring, the managing of teams and KPIs. So that's one characteristic. That's that skill set. The other things are, some preferences in the business. Are you is it a brick and mortar franchise like like a Dairy Queen, a physical location, or is it something service based like a painting franchise where you don't even need a location, you can run that from home. We call it a home based service business. Which is better? Neither. It comes down to preference and sustainability. We'll look at things like your staff, your employees. What do they look like? Are they W-2? Are they, on salary payroll? Are they contractors? Are they getting paid after the job is done? So that means working with small businesses in your area, helping with cash flow. Or are there none? There are certain businesses that don't have any staff, occasionally a 1099. So we look at things like that. Where you reside is a big one. We want to make sure they're registered in your state. Even though you're looking outside your state, it's all based off of where you reside, making sure they're registered. Investment ranges, we have conversations around funding. We want to make sure you're comfortable with the investment range and that you have access to funding, just like getting pre-qualified for a loan. When we have all that information, and by the way, there's about 20 different areas that we explore. Now we have this franchise model, this model that we can base our recommendations on. We're going to go into market and see what's available based off of all these characteristics, that we've listed out. And then from there, we check on availability, both new and resale in your market.